Three, two, one, and here we go. Hey, everybody, welcome to the Pop Punk Power Hour, or probably what this one's going to be is more of a half-hour power, and that's also a nod to one of their EPs coming out for Sum 41. But anyway, welcome. So obviously this episode is going to be about Sum 41. However, I do have some bad news for all of the watchers and listeners here. He just got me today, unfortunately. Tino's going through some shit right now, and he's just super busy and just kind of down and out right now, some medical stuff going on. So we wish him well. Sad that you're not here, buddy, to talk about this. It doesn't feel right talking about Sum 41 without you, because I know you are definitely the bigger fan of them than I am. But what I'm imagining for today is kind of do the same, run through of who Sum 41 is, their expansive growth, and of course why we're talking about it today is, of course, in the beginning of May, they released their final tour and final album, Heaven and Hell. I'm not sure when it's coming out. I'm checking on their socials right now. I don't see when it's coming out, but they said they would finish up all of their tour. They would continue to, do one final world tour, which, I feel like that's going to be just an awesome experience to go to. Tickets are probably going to be like $500, classic, right? Same thing with Blink, and they're not even broken up yet, so I can't even imagine what's going to happen there. But, we love Sum 41, their Canadian band, and going through that. So we'll dive into the whole kind of ethos of Sum 41 in a bit, but we got to do, of course, our beginning introductions. So, Tino usually starts this off about what we're listening to, what's going on right now, of course. So I've been back on the podcast train lately, figuring out what else to listen to. Just sometimes you get tired of music, Sometimes you just get tired of listening to some of the same old things. You're trying to expand your search, and that's what I find, whenever I'm trying to figure out, or I get kind of tired of what I'm listening to. It's just like I don't even listen to new music. I'll just try to put on podcasts, and I'm actually re-listening to S-Town, which is just a phenomenal story. If you haven't listened to S-Town, I would just stop listening to this podcast and go put that on, because it's way better. It's just such a good story. It's good fun. So I listen to S-Town for sure. Music that I've been listening to lately, I've been listening to a lot of the Avett Brothers, or the Avett Brothers. I don't know actually how it's pronounced. Mainly because I'm starting to play some more music again, pick up the guitar, play a little bit more here and there. I got the calluses going on the fingers, so we're getting there. And I just like their style of music and playing. It's a little bit more challenging, and I like the singing, songwriting aspect of that. Their lyrics are just awesome. So I've learned to play No Hard Feelings and a couple other ones. It's a good listen. So the Avett Brothers, what I've been listening to as well. I think I might have added this last time we recorded. I can't remember, but his name's Nick Drake. It's like this older album, and it's a really cool album cover, which I'd never heard of Nick Drake before. But the album itself is called Pink Moon. This came out in 1972. It's awesome. Like I want to try to get this on vinyl, of course, because I'm a stupid hipster, but whatever. Yeah, the song is called, it's the same as the album title, Pink Moon. It's just like, it's a good listen, so I highly recommend it. And then in terms of just learning guitar and playing all these different songs, I've been listening to The Paper Kites, which awesome band. The song Bloom, of course, is one that's kind of hit on my For You page quite a lot, just of people practicing and playing and stuff like that. So I've been trying to learn Bloom by The Paper Kites on the guitar, and it's pretty fun. So that's just kind of what I've been listening to lately. I've been going back and forth on the Spotify DJ every now and then, but, I find there's a lot more misses than hits. Last time we talked, I said that I was, Tino and I switched on our ideas of it. I first hated it. He loved it. And the next time I loved it. He wasn't a big fan. I'm going back on the train of, this is just kind of whatever. And, a lot of it is the AI. I mean, even since then, like I for my work, I did a full hour, webinar on just AI, where it's gone, where it needs to be. And that was a very kind of scary talk because unfortunately there wasn't a lot of good things to talk about. And, the main thing that I talked about was the race to get this out to just every single company trying to, race to say, well, this guy's got AI. Now we need to have AI into our app, right? I think Spotify kind of did that first with their voice guy with X, which I think is cool. I haven't really seen a lot of other companies utilize like a vocal artificial intelligence, and then Snapchat AI came out. So if you have that and never use it like I do, because I never use Snapchat anyway, but it's extremely creepy. Like there's stories and screenshots of it like talking to kids being all weird, like the luring and grooming thing going on. It's pretty messed up. So, and it's gross. Like, we, in our work, we talk to students and staff members about social media and like the dangers of social media, how to be a good digital citizen online, things like that. And one of our trainers, we're talking about this, and he's like, usually after these sessions, kids are coming up to me and saying like how cool, this trend is, or how they use this social media. But when they talk about Snapchat AI, they're all just scared of it. It's weird because one of the students like showed him disabled their location on their phone specifically from Snapchat, and it still asked it a question just like, hey, where can I go get some food around me? And it still pulled that location data. It still gave location access to say like, yeah, go eat something around this area, which is like, what the hell, man? So this race for AI is just, it's insane. And, we're seeing this growth at just unprecedented rates. And we need to stop and like take a moment to think back and just like, okay, well, if we look at our first kind of iteration of AI, which is like curation AI with social media, how all these things, get to our For You page or our home page, right? Everybody's Instagram homepage or Facebook page, everything like that is different because based on what we've interacted with, what we've liked, what we've searched, who we've added as friends, this all shows up on our For You page or our homepage differently. So everybody's got their own different algorithm-based social media page, right? And that's like curation AI, but we haven't really fixed any of those issues with that because we've got increased screen time, we've got, doom scrolling, we've got all these mental health concerns and conditions and the shortened attention spans, all these different things that we haven't really fixed. And with that being said, all of these things have just kind of like ingrained into society in terms of identity or politics or, journalism just can't exist without any sort of social media presence. So now that we're introducing all these different AI things, like what sort of problems are going to become from that, right? What sort of issues are we going to have with AI just becoming a part of our everyday lives? Now, there are benefits, of course, is what social media provided. Like social media has lots of benefits and AI has lots of benefits as well. But what are those things that we're not thinking about? Oh my God, that was a big tangent. You could tell I definitely do this type of shit for my job. So anyway, I'm worried about AI, just to say as politely as I can. I feel like that covers the gripes section. Tino talks about his chapstick era and whatever gripes he's got going on. My gripes are with AI. That's what it is. I'm worried about it. It's there's a lot of benefits and of full disclosure, I use it every single day. Like I use ChatGPT for all these different things. Like I had it pump out scripts for me and what I'm going to be filming next week. And, was able to just word for word kind of match up with some of our old scripts. I gave it some of our old language, and it pops out in that similar style. So it's helpful if you know how to use it. But of course, there's many different things that it could potentially kind of go up with, right? One of the things that I also talk about is that, technology, when it's kind of released or like new technology, follows this sort of like sigmoid curve, right? Where it starts out super slow, like you fix all the bugs, you get all the kinks out, and then it has a very drastic, sharp uptake in terms of companies kind of jumping on, refining it, making it better, monetizing, all these different things, and then it kind of plateaus, right? And we've reached the limits of technology and what we can do. That's why you don't see anybody lining up front for the Apple Store for when the new iPhone is released. You don't see anybody camping outside the Apple Store like they used to, right? So we've kind of hit that limit for technology. But with AI, we don't really know where we are. Like if we're in the top, then we've got some sick tools to help us. If we're in the middle, then we've still probably got a lot of more interesting types of tools that are going to come our way. My dream for AI is that like Siri and Google Assistant and all these things become like way better than what they currently are. Like they become the tools that they were actually promised to be. And then hopefully that'll be the end of it. Or if we're at the bottom, like comparing where Napster was to what Spotify is today, there's years of changes and iteration that are going to go through. And again, I don't know where we are with that, but regardless, what this has brought us to is, well, what we're talking about here today, which I don't know how it actually brought us here today, but anyway, that's a tangent for you. Sum 41. We're going to dive into the bulk of the episode after, a good 10-minute rant. So let's talk about Sum 41. And when I think about Sum 41, it's just a weird memory. Like my first memory of Sum 41 has been the music video for Still Waiting. I remember seeing that on MTV, and the beginning of the music video, it's like the band's pulled into this office with this dude in a suit from the record company that they're apparently at. And he's like, all right, so, where you guys are like all the numbers, right? Blink-182, Green Day, or whatever. Like any of these bands with these numbers, it's not cool anymore. It's out. And guess who that guy is? That business guy is Will Sasso, which Will Sasso, just absolutely hilarious Canadian comedian. But he's like, the numbers, they're out. So your new name is the Sums. And like when I was pretty young when I saw that, and I thought because of that music video, like they were just called the Sums now. They weren't Sum 41. They were just the Sums. Because when they're playing the show in the music video, there's this whole like banner with the Sums behind them. So I thought they just actually went through a name change. But like in the skits, like the guy's like, your name's Johnny? Not anymore. It's Sven. You guys like smoking? You like cigarettes? Well, then here you go. Start smoking. Super weird. But yeah, Will Sass was just absolutely hilarious. That's usually like my go-to, just like remembering of Sum 41. I don't know. I've never seen them live. I've never seen them on tour, unfortunately. And I know that was Tino's first concert that he went to, which is just awesome. And I know one thing about Canadians in Canada is that we love our bands. We treat them well. We treat them with respect, as so long as they're not like Justin Bieber or something like that. But, I'm sure that the tour that they have is just going to be absolutely phenomenal. So I did a little bit of research into Sum 41, obviously not being a part of that actual concert life and things like that. I'm just going to do some of the dirty work and dig deep to see what else, we can find from this, some cool stories, kind of the lifespan of Sum 41 to celebrate them coming to a sad end, which total, how long were they together for? I had this up here. They were together since 1996, which is just crazy, which is just such a long run as well. So 27 years of Sum 41, which is just so cool. And in that time, they released 7 albums with the 8 to come out. We've got All Killer No Filler 2001. We got the Does This Look Infected 2002. We've got Chuck 2004. Underclass Hero 2007, which I cannot wait to talk about 2007 in this podcast, like the year of 2007 with just, I think this was peak year for pop punk and rock music in general to come out. Fantastic year. We got Screaming Bloody Murder 2011, 13 Voices 2016, Order and Decline 2019, and then Heaven and Hell, which is so far has an unreleased date, which I'm very excited to listen to and go through. But let's kind of take a step back into the world of specifically Derek. He's been the one that has really been like the staple of Sum 41 since the beginning. I think he's the only, and this could be wrong, I think he's the only original member left. I think from that point, they've changed out guitarists and drummers as well. I think there was one drummer who kind of stayed for like the longest time, but I think Derek is the original Sum 41 member since the beginning. But they were formed in Ajax, Ontario in 1996, which is pretty cool. Again, we love the Canadian bands here. At that time, I think the group's original members were, of course, Derek Whibley. We had Dave Baksh, who was lead guitar and backing vocals. We had Derek McCaslin, who was bass and backing vocals, and then Steve Jocks as the drummer. The Sum 41 aspect, because they're actually, Derek specifically was in another band before. His first band he said he was in was called Eternal Death, which is awesome. And then he had Chemical Head, and then the guys formed a band called Casper, which turned into Sum 41, that band Casper, because they were 41 days into their summer vacation, basically, and that's kind of where that idea came into, which is cool. 41 days into summer, right? So it's pretty interesting to see. So yeah, Derek said that he got into music when he was like 8 years old, something like that. He, or even earlier, I think it was. He got, like he said, he got a fake guitar at 8 years old, which is pretty cool. Real guitar at 13 years old, and he said as soon as he got that guitar, he's just started playing and found other people who had similar taste in music, started playing, and it was like 8th grade. And this is an interesting story that I had to look at because I didn't actually know this, because he said he got into music when he was like 6-7 years old, so this is in like the late 80s, which is when I was not born. But apparently, in the 80s, or in the late 80s and the early 90s, apparently Shell Company came out with this thing that you would get these cassette tapes. If you were filling up your gas, you would get these certain amount of like a cassette tape. It was called like Revival Hits or something like that. So I had to Google it to figure out what the hell it was. And this apparently was a thing, came from Shell. And the whole thing of it was called Cruisin' Classics, was created by Shell, Shell Oil. And yeah, you would get an audio cassette if you would fill up, to a certain amount, which is pretty cool. There was different 70s and 80s and volumes, right? 50s and 60s and things like that, which even, now, 20, 30 years later since then, cassettes are even coming back. Like looking at different kind of pie charts of if you look at CD sales, streams, vinyl sales, and cassette sales, like vinyl sales have skyrocketed for the past 5 or 6 years, I'd say. And now cassette tapes are even coming out. You've got different bands and things like that releasing cassette tapes from their music. I think even Harry Styles released some music on cassette. I could be wrong about this. Yeah, Harry's House limited edition white cassette vinyl, which is cool. Like, how many people, like right now, if you had a cassette tape, would you be able to play it? Probably not. You'd have to call mom and dad and like take that from the attic or from their storage unit to pull that thing out, or your old childhood bedroom to put your put that little boombox that you had that had a cassette player in it. Because I haven't seen a car that had a cassette player in a long time, like an old 90s car, right? Where you would remember when you wanted to play your iPod music and you had that cassette thing that would like pop into the player. You'd plug your iPod into that and then play music from that. Like, that is, I think, a lot of our kind of remembering the good old days with the cassette tapes. So yeah, weird that they're coming back out on special. But anyway, cassette tapes, that was kind of like Derek's like introduction to like loving music and stuff like that, which is pretty cool. So forming the band, going back to that, right? They gained some popularity, of course, in playing in local band competitions, but they were signed by Island Records in 1999. But also there was like 2 different record labels that they had signed with which I haven't really looked too far into to see like how or what that goes. But Island Records was the US based version, and then Aquarius Records was the Canadian kind of version of that. But in 1999, I think through Aquarius Records, I could be wrong, but they actually released their first EP, their extended play, which was called Half Hour of Power, which is what this is probably going to be. We might call this, might be half hour. We'll see. But this was an EP released by them, and it was released in 2000 in the US, but it actually had a pretty good following from that. So it had their drummer, the album cover had their drummer aiming like a Nerf gun up in the air, standing in front of like this exploding background, very classic Sum 41. So most of the songs actually featured on the EP were included as bonus tracks on the their first studio album, All Killer No Filler. So that's pretty cool, which featured actually a re-recorded version of the Half Hour Power 6-track Summer. So pretty cool to see that it's been come out from there. So this EP comes out and it's like slow. It's kind of got, some mixed reviews. They had some connections that kind of got this EP out there. And then it started to gain some traction, get popular. And then, once that kind of got the wheels turning, that's when they recorded All Killer, No Filler, and released in 2001, which it had a huge success. Of course, this is where we see most of the hits that are on there, like Fat Lip, which topped the Billboard Modern Rock Tracks charts, and other successful singles, of course, Into Deep, Motivation, ones that are probably in our constant rotation in some of these playlists when we're looking at throwback hits, playbacks, all those ones. So not only was this album well received in Canada, but internationally as well. And they just had no idea had no idea that this is going to happen, right? It was said to have sold 4 million copies, right? And these kids they were 20 and 21 years old. Just imagine being 20 and 21 years old, recording an album and having it being like an international hit, like 4 million copies sold like that. That's just crazy to think about. So interestingly enough, Japan took off with Fat Lip. Japan loved Sum 41, which I found very interesting. And I have a hypothesis as to why. I looked at I tried to see online to see what else, there were talking about, other individuals talking about, Japan and Sum 41 playing like that. I think I found a Reddit post of somebody, it was a comment saying that when they lived in Japan around that time, there was 2 English songs that were played on the radio, and Fat Lip was one of them, which was cool. And I think I have a hypothesis why. And I want you to listen to Fat Lip, and then I want you to listen to any anime intro opening, because I think that's probably why. And I want to talk to somebody about this. I think there are some interesting parallels between anime opening music. I don't actually know what the genre of that is called, and pop punk. And this is going to be another tangent to kind of go off of, because I want to explore this. I think it's pretty interesting. Because if you look at anime music, specifically the anime openings, it's similarly characterized by an energetic sound, catchy melodies, emotionally resonant themes for that as well. And they often form as an emotional storytelling that sets the mood for the show, engages the audience, and intrudes and has these different themes and these characters, their emotional journeys and things like that. And I think that's a good parallel to pop punk. Now, full disclosure, I don't watch anime. I've tried. I've watched a couple episodes of what the hell is it called? Death Note. I tried watching that. I don't know. It just didn't hit for me. I'm not a big anime guy, but I'm familiar with the stereotypes of anime and things like that. But listening to some of this music, right? There's some defining characteristics of Sum 41's music, especially in the early, of that dynamic, fast-paced sound, which has the driving drum beats, electric guitar riffs, the big frenetic pace there, which is exactly what you would see in any sort of anime opening, right? Emotionally charged lyrics, right? Songs like Pieces, More, good prime examples of Sum 41's and their raw emotion, things like that. But if you listen to, and I had to play this, if you listen to Unravel from Tokyo Ghoul, and that immersion, that turmoil, whatever that they talk about in some of the lyrics there, I had to kind of Google search the lyrics, reflects on personal experiences, the thematic response of rebellion, youth, and struggle. All these things are so common in the pop punk universe. And so you could probably see that in any sort of anime as well. The musical structure as well, very similar, right? Where it's just starting a little bit slow, then it kind of picks up into this huge fast pace, boom, 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 boom. So a lot of similar attributes with anime music, which I think is interesting, right? Emotional depth, energetic sound, thematic resonance, musical structure, all these different things, right? I think that's probably where that found popularity in Japan with a lot of the anime fans, right? Where that music aligns so well with some of those styles, right? Those themes that are very common in Japan. So anyway, interesting to see. So again, through this, right, we go through All Killer, No Filler. That takes off, and then the second album comes out, Does This Look Infected? And that album, Does This Look Infected, interestingly enough, I found a story that he was saying they had the album cover before they had the title, which is interesting. So what he said, or what Derek said, is that it came down to like the last second because the record company called him up and was like, we need a name for this album. Otherwise, this record is not coming out this year because we've got to, we got to market it. We got to press all these different things. So it's like, you need a name today. Otherwise, this album isn't coming out this year. So they're like, give us an hour. And they just sat down with the album cover. They threw out some names, and the Does This Look Infected was the one that kind of made them laugh the most. So that was the album that came from that. So interestingly, cool to see, right? So they with that, they had a Does This Look Infected tour, I'm pretty sure, where they did music fests worldwide and things like that, which is cool. And then so that gets released, right, a couple years down the road. We've got Chuck in 2004, which has some fucking crazy story behind this. Like, this is insane. So obviously lots of bands have crazy stories and controversies, whatever, but like, I don't think there's any story that can kind of really top when they released Chuck and the reasoning behind it. Because what they were doing is Sum 41, they went to the Republic of Congo and were filming a documentary with this company called War Child. And they actually ended up being caught in like gunfire and had to be evacuated from the peacekeeping force that were there. So, yeah, it's pretty crazy. So when looking at some of the stories, according to Derek, they had recorded a lot of the album already, but they had like some of the songs, but they were going to come back from doing this documentary and finish the album. So again, there was some civil war happening within the Congo. They were shooting some just to, I guess to talk about it. So they were going to, come back after that and then finish the album. So when they were in the country, things started to go like sideways, right? The Civil War apparently had a ceasefire for like a year and a half, but everything just kind of started up again like 10 days into their trip. So apparently they were staying at this hotel, and there were two rebel groups like between the hotel. So the hotel that they were staying at kept getting hit with like stray bullets, RPGs, like mortar strikes. Like, oh my God. They legitimately didn't think they were going to make it out alive. And their kind of handler, their guy that kind of told them to move different places and like, hey, we're going to, get you out. And the guy who organized the armored tanks to actually evacuate them from the hotel, guess what his fucking name was? Chuck. So to honor this guy who basically like saved their lives, they named their next album Chuck. Which is cool because some of the songs also have like their experience in the DRC, explaining these things of conflict, survival, and resilience as well. So they continue and have continued to be associated with War Child Canada, helping raise awareness about the impact of war on children across the world. So the documentary is called Rocked, Sum 41 in Chicago, detailing their experience and the broader issues that have happened. So I need to watch this. I haven't actually seen this. So I'm definitely going to watch this at some point, right? It's 2005 this came out. Oh, it's on YouTube. Fantastic. The full-length documentary, 52 minutes. More than enough time to watch out. So War Child Canada, go watch that, which is actually pretty damn cool. So to continue the evolution, throughout the years, obviously, there had been many members that had left, come back, changed out some of those. So Dave Batch left the band in 2006, focused on his own band at the time. But then, of course, it came back in 2015. So then their drummer at that time left in 2013. And then they had their new drummer, Frank Zumo, I don't know, stepped in as their new drummer at the time. But again, throughout this time, like some themes, of course, that are unfortunately common kind of in this industry of alcoholism and, getting help, getting better. Derek was hospitalized due to liver and kidney failure from excessive drinking, which, he's very open about talking about this, which I think is really, really important. Imagine that you are the front man for a band, and basically you've got everybody just telling you yes, yes, yes. And like that lifestyle, that's a very high dopamine hit. And imagine coming back from tour, like talking or, performing for like millions of people essentially, and coming back to your normal life for a bit, right? That's probably where you're going to want to kind of chase that dragon again, right? So it makes so much sense why, the alcoholism or the drug abuse in kind of that world is unfortunately common. But, Derek's actually really, really open about, his experience in rehab, getting better. However, it's not just the excessive drinking that was kind of like the pitfall that kind of made him go into rehab. Obviously, that was the big one, but he also had a lot of other kind of health challenges as well. He had a huge, big back injury in 2007, I think is what he said it was. He had a herniated disc, man. Like, I feel that pain. Like, I don't think it was a full herniated disc, but I definitely had a disc like pinch a nerve in my back one time. And like, I still have to like work to get rid of that pain or make sure it doesn't come back. And this happened to me when I was like a teenager, like in baseball. Like I went to go pick up a ground ball and just like I crumbled to the ground I don't know. So he kind of had that big injury in 2007, had a herniated disc. So again, in the middle of like recording and touring and partying and all that stuff, he just really didn't take care of it. Every time he injured it, they had to cancel, or he had to just go back home and nurse that injury. But of course, what's going to help with some of that pain, probably going to be a few drinks every now and then, right, to help that pain, right? So not taking care of himself properly. And he also got injured again in Japan. I think he said it was like 2013. That's probably wrong. But he got attacked in a bar in Japan. And apparently, this is from his story, his side of things. He was just hanging out. He was in the bathroom, or a lineup for the bathroom. And then he just was like, got jumped out of nowhere. And just like these three guys just like beat the shit out of him. And, after they were done, he realized he like couldn't stand. So they had to cancel the rest of the tour there, which is scary. So I didn't really delve too deep into kind of his time in rehab and things like that, but obviously eventually got out and, continued to record and, produce music and tour, which is, awesome to see. And they're continuing to, again, shove out the music, and until, of course, recently until now, which we're looking at the end of a wonderful era with Sum 41. So their tour, which I don't remember if they've actually said what the tour is, but they're going to have one final world tour, which I'm really excited for. I hope Tino and myself are able to go to that and be a part of that and experience, because, one of the things we want to do is report back to you folks, right? If, you're not able to make it or not in your area, we want to talk about some of these experiences so you can live vicariously through us, obviously, and once we start sponsoring the show, we can use that ad money, baby. It's part of the whole process. Once we figure out actually how to monetize this shit, I got no idea. We're just doing this for the love, right? And that's the important part. We love you all. We're doing this all for the love of it. But you know what? That's kind of going to wrap it up with the whole ethos of Sum 41 and who they are. We respect them. We love them. And again, I wish Tino was here to experience this journey live with me. But also, I got to focus on how to make the mic sound this good when him and I are together, because this is what a podcast needs to sound like. I got to tweak some other things. So if anybody knows any shit, just kind of let me know. I appreciate it. But this has been the Pop Punk Power Hour with the special edition of me solo, just the half hour of power, which I think this is a good kind of title for. So with that being said, thanks for listening, folks. Join us in the Discord. Have some chats. Follow us on social media, Pop Punk Power Hour, wherever you listen to your podcast, wherever you get social media. We've got some sort of presence there. I don't think we have Twitter, but we're definitely on Insta, definitely on TikTok. Follow us on Instagram, though. That's really mainly where we post. But anyway, that's enough tangents. Thank you so much for joining us for this shorter half hour of power. But be safe, be well, have a wonderful week. It's Tuesday, so, not really halfway through the week, but hey, who gives a shit, right? All right, love you all. Talk to you soon.